I was hiding in my closet at 2 a.m., holding my breath, when I heard my son's wife say the words that changed everything. We need to put her in a home tomorrow, before she ruins our lives completely. My heart stopped. After raising Jake for 23 years by myself, working 2 jobs to pay for his college, and moving in with him just 6 months ago after my heart attack. This was how it would end? But wait. Let me back up, because what happened next will shock you. And trust me, you need to hear the whole story to understand why I'm sitting in this diner at 4 a.m., writing this down with shaking hands. 3 days ago, everything seemed perfect. Jake had begged me to move in after my doctor said I couldn't live alone anymore. "Mom, Sarah and I want you here," he'd said, his eyes so sincere. "We have that spare room, and Emily would love having Grandma around." Sarah, his wife of 5 years, had smiled and nodded. "Of course, Mom," she'd said, using that sweet voice that always made me feel uneasy. "We're family." I should have trusted my gut. The first red flag came on day 2. I was making breakfast for little Emily, my 4-year-old granddaughter, when Sarah walked into the kitchen. Her smile disappeared the second she saw me. "I can handle breakfast," she said, her voice cold as ice. "I don't mind helping," I replied, flipping Emily's pancake. "I love cooking for her." Sarah's jaw tightened. I said I can handle it. Emily looked between us, confused. "I like Grandma's pancakes," she whispered. "Eat what I make you," Sarah snapped at her own daughter. My heart broke watching Emily's face fall. But I stayed quiet. I was a guest in their house, after all. The second red flag came when I offered to help with Emily's bedtime story. Sarah literally blocked the doorway. "She has a routine," Sarah said. "Don't mess it up." Through Emily's cracked door, I heard my granddaughter asking, "Where's Grandma? I want her to read to me." "Grandma is busy," Sarah lied. I wasn't busy. I was standing right there, invisible. By day 3, I realized Sarah watched my every move. When I tried to help with laundry, she redid it. When I cleaned the bathroom, she cleaned it again. When I talked to Emily, Sarah would interrupt and pull her away. But here's what really got to me. Jake didn't see any of it. "Mom, you look tired," he'd say when I tried to tell him. "Maybe you should rest more." "Jake, I think Sarah might be." "Sarah's been amazing about this whole thing," he'd cut me off. "She's trying so hard to make you comfortable." Comfortable? I felt like a prisoner. Then came the night that changed everything. I woke up around 1 a.m. needing water. My room was right above the kitchen, and I could hear voices downstairs. Jake and Sarah were having a heated conversation. I crept to the top of the stairs to listen. I know, but something in Sarah's tone made my stomach drop. "She's driving me crazy, Jake," Sarah was saying. "Following me around, trying to parent Emily, acting like she owns this house." "She's just trying to help," Jake replied, but he sounded tired. "Help? She's taking over. Emily barely listens to me anymore because Grandma does everything different. And she's always there, Jake. Always watching, always judging." My hands gripped the railing. Judging. I'd bent over backwards to stay out of their way. "What do you want me to do?" Jake asked. And that's when Sarah said the words that made my blood freeze. "There's a nice place called Sunset Gardens about an hour away." I looked it up. "We could visit on weekends." "Sarah, I can't just." "Yes, you can. She had her time raising you. Now it's our time. Our family. And if you don't handle this, Jake, I will." The threat in her voice was crystal clear. But Jake's next words hit me like a truck. "You're right. I'll call them tomorrow." I stumbled back to my room, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might give out again. My own son. My baby boy who I'd rocked to sleep, who I'd stayed up all night with when he had fever, who I'd worked double shifts to buy school clothes for. He was going to throw me away like garbage. I sat on my bed, shaking. What hurt most wasn't even the betrayal. It was Emily. Sweet Emily who ran to me every morning with hugs, who asked me to braid her hair, who told me she loved me, to the moon and back. I'd lose her. Just like I was about to lose everything else. That's when I made my decision. I wasn't going down without a fight. I waited until the house was quiet, then I packed my suitcase as silently as possible. My hands shook as I folded my clothes, but my mind was clear for the first time in days. I left a note on my pillow, gone to stay with my sister Linda. Don't worry about me. Take care of Emily. Linda lived 3 states away, but I figured that would buy me time. At 3 a.m., I crept downstairs with my suitcase. The hardest part was walking past Emily's room without saying goodbye. But I couldn't risk waking anyone. I called a taxi from the corner and asked the driver to take me to the bus station. The first bus out was heading to Chicago at 6 a.m. Perfect. But here's where the story gets crazy. As I sat in the bus station waiting, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Are you Margaret Chen, Jake's mother? My heart stopped. How did someone know where I was? I almost didn't respond, but something made me text back. Yes. This is Detective Mills. We need to talk. Don't go anywhere. Detective. My hands started shaking again. What could the police want with me? 20 minutes later, a woman in a plain suit approached me. Mrs. Chen? I'm Detective Mills. Thank you for not leaving town. I don't understand, I stammered. What's this about? She sat down beside me. We've been investigating your daughter-in-law for fraud. Sarah Collins. Well, that's not even her real name. Her real name is Sandra Coleman, and she's wanted in 3 states for elder abuse and theft. The words hit me like a slap. What? She targets families with elderly relatives, gains their trust, then isolates the elderly person while stealing their money and assets. We've been tracking her for 2 years. My head was spinning. But she's married to my son. They have a daughter. Detective Mills' face went grim. Mrs. Chin, Emily isn't Jake's daughter. We ran DNA tests from items in your son's house. Hair from brushes, that sort of thing. Emily belongs to Sarah's previous victim, an elderly man in Ohio who died under suspicious circumstances. The bus station started spinning around me. Nothing made sense. Your son is in danger too, the detective continued. Sarah's pattern is to isolate the elderly family member first, then slowly poison the adult child against any outside family. Eventually, she gains control of all finances and assets. In 3 previous cases, the adult children died in accidents after changing their wills. Jake was in danger. My son was in danger, and he had no idea. We need your help, Detective Mills said. We need you to go back home and act normal while we gather final evidence. Can you do that? Go back. After what I'd heard. After planning to ship me off to a home? But Jake was my son. Whatever Sarah had done to him, whatever lies she'd told, he was still my baby. What about Emily? I asked. We're working with Ohio police to locate her real family. But right now, she's safer if Sarah doesn't know we're onto her. I took a deep breath. Okay. I'll go back. The taxi ride home felt like the longest trip of my life. Detective Mills followed in her own car, staying far enough back that Sarah wouldn't notice. I used my key to slip back into the house at 7 a.m., just as I heard movement upstairs. I quickly unpacked and got back into my pajamas, then started making coffee like nothing had happened. Jake came downstairs first, looking surprised. Mom, I thought I heard you moving around really early. Couldn't sleep, I said, trying to keep my voice normal. Hart was acting up a bit. His face filled with concern. Real concern. The kind I remembered from when he was young and genuinely cared about me. Are you okay? Should we call the doctor? Before I could answer, Sarah appeared. Her eyes were sharp, suspicious. You seem different this morning, she said. Just tired, I replied, pouring coffee with steady hands. But I watched her watching me, and I saw something I'd missed before. Her eyes were cold, calculating. How had I not noticed that before? The day dragged on forever. I played my role perfectly, the tired, confused old woman who was becoming too much trouble. I even suggested to Jake that maybe I should look into senior living options. His face lit up with relief. Really, Mom? I mean, if you think that would be better. I just want what's best for everyone, I said, hating every word. Sarah smiled her fake smile. There's this lovely place called Sunset Gardens. Very nice, very quiet. Quiet. Like a graveyard. That afternoon, while Sarah was at the store and Jake was at work, I spent precious time with Emily. She was coloring at the kitchen table, her little tongue poking out in concentration. Emily, sweetheart, I said carefully. Do you remember living anywhere before here? She looked up with those big brown eyes. I lived with Grandpa Jim. But he went to sleep forever. My heart clenched. Do you miss Grandpa Jim? Aha. Mama said he was sick, but he seemed okay to me. We played games and he read me stories. She went back to coloring. I asked Mama if I could visit his sleep forever place, but she said no. This poor baby had no idea her whole life was a lie. Emily, you know Grandma loves you very much, right? I love you too, Grandma Margaret. Are you gonna go to sleep forever too? The question hit me like a knife. No, sweetheart. Grandma's going to make sure you're safe. That evening, Detective Mills texted me. Tomorrow at 3 p.m. Be ready. I barely slept that night. Every creak of the house made me jump. Was Sarah planning something? Did she suspect I knew? The next day felt like walking on a tightrope. Sarah was acting strange, jumpy, constantly checking her phone, watching me even more carefully than usual. At 2:30 p.m., she announced she was taking Emily to the park. I'll come too, I said. No, she snapped, then caught herself. I mean, you should rest. You look tired. Something was wrong. Very wrong. They left, and I immediately called Detective Mills. She took Emily. Something's not right. We're moving now, she said. Stay in the house. 10 minutes later, police cars surrounded the house. Detective Mills burst through the front door just as Jake was pulling into the driveway. My son walked in to find his living room full of police officers and his mother crying in the corner. What the hell is going on? He demanded. Detective Mills showed him her badge. Mr. Chin, we need to talk about your wife. What happened next was like watching Jake's world crumble in real time. They showed him Sarah's real identity, her criminal record, the DNA evidence about Emily. That's impossible, he kept saying. We've been together 5 years. Emily is my daughter. I was there when she was born. Mr. Chin, where exactly was Emily born? Detective Mills asked gently. Jake opened his mouth, then closed it. His face went pale. Sarah said, she said the birth was so traumatic, she didn't want to talk about it. I never saw the birth certificate. She said she'd handle all the paperwork. The truth hit him like a freight train. His legs gave out, and he sank into his chair. Where's my daughter? Sarah's voice came from the doorway. She stood there with Emily's hand in hers, taking in the scene. Her fake mask finally slipped completely. Sandra Coleman, Detective Mills said, you're under arrest for fraud, identity theft, child abduction, and suspected murder. Murder? Jake whispered. 3 elderly victims in 3 different states, Detective Mills explained. All died mysteriously after signing over their assets to your wife. Sarah's eyes went wild. She yanked Emily closer. She's my daughter. You can't prove anything. Actually, we can, Detective Mills said calmly. We found the real Emily's grandfather's body yesterday, exhumed from his grave in Ohio. He was poisoned, Sandra. Just like you planned to poison Jake here, and just like you were planning to poison Mrs. Chen. My blood turned to ice. Poison. Detective Mills nodded grimly. We found arsenic in your coffee this morning, Mrs. Chen. Not enough to kill you immediately, but enough to make you sick. Probably would have looked like another heart attack in a few weeks. Jake looked like he was going to throw up. She was trying to kill my mother? And eventually you too, once she had access to all your accounts, Detective Mills confirmed. Emily started crying. She didn't understand what was happening, but she could feel the fear and tension. I walked over and knelt down beside her. It's okay, sweetheart. Everything's going to be okay. Sarah jerked Emily away from me. Don't touch her. She's mine. Actually, Detective Mills said, pulling out handcuffs. She belongs to her aunt in Ohio. Emily's real name is Emma Thompson, and her aunt has been looking for her for 2 years. As they arrested Sarah, she screamed at me, "This is all your fault. I had everything perfect until you showed up. Jake would have been mine completely." Jake stared at her like he'd never seen her before. Perfect. You call lying to me for 5 years perfect? You call stealing a child perfect? I gave you a family. Sarah screamed as they dragged her toward the door. I gave you everything. You gave me nothing but lies, Jake said quietly. After they were gone, Jake and I sat in stunned silence. Emily had fallen asleep on the couch, exhausted from all the chaos. Mom, Jake said finally, I'm so sorry. About everything. About believing her lies, about planning to put you in that home, about not protecting you. I reached over and took his hand. You were fooled by a professional liar, Jake. She fooled everyone. But I should have listened to you. You tried to tell me something was wrong, and I dismissed you. His eyes filled with tears. My own mother, and I was ready to throw you away. You're not your father, Jake, I said softly. He left us when things got hard. But you're still here. You're still my son. We both cried then. For the lies we'd believed, for the time we'd lost, for the little girl who wasn't his daughter but whom he'd loved like one. What happens to Emily now? He asked. Detective Mills said her aunt in Ohio has been fighting to get her back. She'll go home to her real family. Jake nodded, wiping his eyes. That's good. She deserves to know who she really is. Over the next few days, we had to say goodbye to Emily, or Emma, as we learned her real name was. Her aunt came to pick her up, a kind woman who cried when she saw her niece. Thank you for taking care of her, she said to us. Even if you didn't know the truth, you loved her. That matters. Jake held Emma one last time before she left. Be good for your real family, okay? And remember, even though we're not really related, you'll always be special to me. Will I see you again? She asked. Maybe someday, he said. But right now, you need to go home where you really belong. Watching them drive away broke our hearts, but we knew it was right. The trial lasted 6 months. Sandra, was convicted on all counts and sentenced to 15 years in prison. We learned she'd scammed 4 families over 8 years, stealing over $2 million. Jake and I went to therapy together. We had to rebuild our relationship after all the lies Sarah had told, all the ways she'd manipulated us against each other. I can't believe I almost lost you, Jake said during one session. My own mother. And I was ready to abandon you for a woman who was planning to murder us both. But you didn't lose me, I reminded him. I fought back. I survived. We survived. Today, 1 year later, Jake and I are closer than we've been in years. He never remarried, says he needs time to trust again. I still live with him, but now it's because we want to be together, not because I have no choice. We got a letter from Emma last month. She's doing well with her aunt, back in school, making friends. She drew us a picture of the 3 of us together with the words, "Thank you for loving me," written in shaky kid handwriting. Sometimes the worst betrayals lead to the greatest redemptions. I almost lost my son to a master manipulator. I almost lost my life to someone who saw me as nothing but an obstacle. But in the end, love won. Truth won. And I learned something important. I'm stronger than I ever knew. At 72 years old, I saved not just my own life, but my son's life too. Never underestimate the power of a mother's love. Even when everything seems lost, even when your own child turns against you, sometimes you just have to trust your instincts and fight. Because family is worth fighting for. Real family. The kind built on love and truth, not lies and manipulation. And if you're reading this thinking about your own family, your own struggles, remember, it's never too late to fight for what matters. It's never too late to choose love over fear, truth over lies. Sometimes the people who are supposed to love us most are the ones who hurt us deepest. But sometimes, just sometimes, we find our way back to each other. And that's when you know what real love looks like. That's when you know you're finally, truly home.